Hello everyone and welcome to the Hippie Geeks. We recently found this beautiful hand-blown glass vase and we knew exactly what we wanted to do with it. We both love the soft, ethereal light fireflies produce and wanted to capture that in a lamp. You can do this project in any glass vessel from a mason jar to a wine bottle to a vase, and in this video we will show you how to do it. Here are the tools and materials you will need for this project. A USB-powered LED fairy light. There are hundreds of options. We chose one with 100 warm white LEDs. A USB power brick. Most folks have at least a couple of these floating around. A USB Type A male to female extension cable. The length will determine how long the cord on your lamp will be. Some tape. In this video, I used clear tape as I initially didn't plan to wrap that section of cord with jute, but the wiring is only carrying 5 volts of power, so any tape will do. A roll of jute twine. We will be wrapping much of the wiring in this lamp in jute, and as I used a 10-foot long cable, it took nearly an entire roll. A roll of 1/4 inch sisal rope. This is mainly used to give the USB cable more dimension and to make sure the jute stays in place. Of course, my Leatherman. By now, this should be no surprise. Finally, you will need a glass vessel. We found this absolutely beautiful hand-blown glass vase. The more unique the glass piece you choose is, the more beautiful your finished lamp will be. I also ended up using some super glue at the end of the project. You may alternatively want to use a hot glue gun to secure some of the steps. Step 1. Prepare the lights. Depending on what light string you ordered, this step may not apply to you. The one I ordered came with 6 feet of cord, so I will be shortening it up considerably. The first thing to do is split the 2 wires apart. I find that it is easier to do by setting my Leatherman on the table with the knife blade facing up, then place the point between the wires and pull the wire down. That should easily slice between them and give you a place to grab on each wire. Now, grab one wire with each hand and gently spread the wires apart along the length of the cable. Go ahead and split it along its entire length from the USB connection to where the lights begin. Before we cut out the extra wire, we need to mark one of the wires on both ends. The way the wires match up matters with these lights, and as both wires look the same, we need to make sure that the correct wires are being spliced together. I am using a piece of tape on each end, though you could also use a dot of nail polish or perhaps permanent marker. Once you have the wires marked, go ahead and cut out the extra length of wire. As always, set this aside for use on another project. Take the ends of your wire and strip about 1/2 inch of insulation on each of the 4 ends using a Leatherman, cutting pliers, or wire strippers. Be careful not to cut completely through as these wires are fairly small. Now, twist the matching pairs on each of the wires together. In my case, that is the 2 wires marked with tape twisted around each other, and then the unmarked wires the same way. Take the twisted pairs and lay them flush against their respective wires. The wires in this cable will only be carrying 5 volts of power, and as such we don't have to worry about avoiding burning the house down. We are mostly looking to keep them separated to avoid shorting out the circuit. As I was sure that I had connected the wires properly, I didn't test them at this point, but if you are unsure, you should test them now before it becomes mummified in tape. I used a clear tape here, as at this point I was not planning on wrapping this section in jute. You can use any tape you want, just make sure that it will look good when it is finished and that you securely and completely cover the bare wires. I did choose to test the lights at this point, and happily they all lit up. Step 2. Wrap all of the things in jute. At this point, I decided to feed the lights into the vase. I was just too excited to wait, and this gave me a place to put the 10 feet of lighted strand after I decided to unwrap it for a reason I cannot explain, other than I wanted to see it. When you unwrap the lights, take your time and try to not create any kinks, as these wires can be bent and broken or cracked and shorted out. I was excited to see it lit up, and even without everything wrapped, I knew that we had made a good choice and that it would look great. This is the point when I decided to go ahead and wrap all of the clear parts of the wire in jute. Start with a knot at the end just past the plastic, leaving some extra that can be run underneath the wrapping. Carefully wrap just around the wiring, pausing occasionally to check your work and make sure there are no gaps in the jute. Continue wrapping all the way to the metal USB connector itself, using multiple layers of jute as necessary to get the look that you want. I will be making this considerably thicker later, but it is really starting to take shape. Grab the USB extension cable and begin by tying a knot just below the connector. Again, leave a little bit to be folded under the wrapping as it keeps it from sliding around. Wrap all of the way to the end of the connector, checking every so often to make sure you are keeping it nice and tight. Nobody wants to see any of the cable peeking through. Plug the light strand into your extension cable to see how the connection area looks at this point. Continue wrapping strands of jute around the light strand and the USB cable to thicken it up, but make sure not to cram so much jute between them that they cannot make a good connection. At this point, I grabbed the sisal rope and began to really thicken up this part of the extension cable. Tie the end on securely with jute and then begin wrapping it around the connector. This is considerably harder to work with, but do your best and just keep wrapping it around. Secure it at the end of the connector with another piece of jute and leave a tail hanging past, as we will tie this up with the extension cable to give it some dimensionality. Continue layering the connector until you get the thickness that you want, and then step away for a moment because you are about to embark on a journey that is not for the faint of heart or those with fingers that are prone to cramping. We will now continue on our journey to wrap all of the things in jute. I chose a 10-foot cable for my lamp, so I'm not going to force you to sit here and watch the entire span of me wrapping the cord. Just keep wrapping it in jute, and when I got to the end of the sisal rope section that was there, I just cut another strand that would go all the way to the other end, and kept wrapping, and wrapping, and wrapping, and wrapping. An hour or so later, when I finally reached the other end, I tied the jute off and grabbed the power brick. I wanted to add it here as I would be wrapping it in jute as well. At this point, if you plan on wrapping the power brick with jute and making it one continuous cable, you should glue the power brick to the USB extension cable. If you do not want to attach it permanently, simply finish wrapping jute to the end of the USB connector and tie it off. As I do want it to look like one continuous piece, I glued them together and kept wrapping all of the way to the end of the power brick. Once you have it completely wrapped and you are happy with the way it looks, I would use some super glue and glue the edge of the jute to the end of the power brick to keep it from sliding off unexpectedly. At this point, I sat back and basked in the glory that was 10 feet of USB cable wrapped in jute. This is the part of the project that will by far take you the longest, and once it is done, you are nearly finished. All of the jute wrapping was finished, and I only had one step remaining. I had made the connection point between the lights and the USB cable quite thick, and I didn't want the stack of jute and sisal to come undone. I took the flat ends of each side and spread a layer of superglue on them. This bonds all of the threads on the faces of the connection points together, and as they will face each other, you will never see it. Once you have done this part, set them aside separately and allow them to dry thoroughly. Do not put them back together wet, or you will never get them apart. You do not want to bond these sections, as these light strands will fail eventually, and you want to be able to replace them when that happens. That is it. Plug your lamp in and enjoy the glow. I intentionally did not add a switch to this light, as it draws so little power that it will be left on all the time to be enjoyed. If you are interested in adding a switch, I will show you how to do that in a separate bottle lamp video using the same lights. I think that this lamp looks great, and the best part about doing this project is that there are so many options to make it look unique. I would love to hear about your experience making a project like this in the comments below. If this is your first time here on the Hippie Geeks, it would be wonderful to have you subscribe. This channel is all about helping you unleash your life and create a world that you love. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and leave a comment, as we love hearing from all of you. Subscribe, check out some of our other videos, and come back every Wednesday and Saturday for fresh content. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.